welcome to episode 2 of Ring Chronicles.
Hey.
Back here with Glenn Ritchie. I'm Lance Vaughn. And we'll get started here in a minute, but of course I want to crack open this Creature Comforts Tropicalia I have here. It's delicious. It's from Athens, Georgia.
It does taste good.
It is pretty good. Creature Comforts, please sponsor us, goddammit. Please.
We need money.
We will make Creature Comforts the official drink of this podcast. Don't you want that, Creature Comforts?
We need to make enough money so we can quit our jobs and do this permanently.
Yeah. So you can help us achieve that goal, Creature Comforts, in Athens, Georgia, with the delicious Tropicalia. So anyway.
All right, so let's get started on this. So you should probably listen to the first episode if you want to understand what this episode's about. It won't make much sense. This is really a second part of that first episode. And I listened to the first episode, and oh my God, we the hell out of it.
Yeah, we apologize to all of the 20 people that listen to it.
Yes.
I even edited some of the ums out, and there was still a fuck ton of ums.
Yeah.
So
we might do better. We might not. I
Right.
speak like that normally. I'm just, I push through the awkwardness. That's all I know how to tell you. I'm not a Jim Cornette. Now, strangely enough, when I was an announcer, you could put me in front of 300 people, and I would speak and announce things very clearly, but everything was, very short, and there wasn't much to say aside from the location they were coming from and their weight and things like that. So I don't know what the difference is, but I think I'm going to slow down a little bit, and that'll help me out with my some. I'm still going to do it, so just be ready.
Yeah, I'm going to try to improve too, but I think some of it was being nervous, even though
we were very worried about the judgment of the 20 people that listened to the first podcast.
Yeah, but I'm proud of those 20 downloads.
And I know there was probably other people that listened to it too, because it was on Spotify, and you can listen to us on Spotify. Now, does each time it's listened to count as one listen?
Okay, so on Buzzsprout, where the actual file is hosted, okay?
Yeah.
It counts the downloads, because that's how podcasts work. You download it to your device and you listen to it. So it's not like a live stream.
Well, I listened to it about 4 or 5 times, so I might have been 5 downloads.
Might have been. So did you just stream it? Did you just stream it on Spotify?
Yeah, I streamed it on Spotify.
Okay. I have no idea how that works then.
I don't know either.
But because I don't know if I need to go on Spotify and see if there's analytics there to tell me how many people listen to it there. But on Buzzsprout itself, it said 20. It said 20 downloads. So 20 people downloaded it, at least off of Buzzsprout. I don't know if Buzzsprout counts watching it on other platforms.
Huh, that'd be interesting to find out.
So I don't, because it's pretty much on every big podcasting platform. So it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, and it's on Google Podcasts.
And we had a couple of 100 views on our YouTube shorts as well.
Yeah.
And one comment.
Yeah. We did. We actually had a fucking comment. But yeah, the social media part of this is going to fucking drive me nuts. You got to figure out when our audience is on social media. So our audience is wrestling fans.
Yeah.
So I was like, I read that and I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to know when fucking wrestling fans are on social media? And then it dawned on me, probably when wrestling is on television.
That does make a lot of sense.
So I'm probably going to start posting the clips probably towards the beginning and ends of Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Collision.
That does make a lot of sense.
But SmackDown's tonight, so probably not tonight. I don't know, maybe. We'll
yeah. I'm going with the ums again. So
you got to stop that shit.
Also, it might be worth noting when Hulu streams WWE programming. Like I know SmackDown usually pops up around about 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday.
Oh,
so that might
I
be
did
worth
not think
looking
of
at
that.
too.
Okay, so on Hulu, you mean so there's like
Raw, SmackDown, and NXT are all on Hulu.
Okay.
And they appear a little bit less than a day after it was aired. It's never the same time. Like,
right.
Sometimes I'm on Saturday because I don't have conventional cable. So sometimes on Saturday I can look up SmackDown at 2 o'clock. Sometimes it's at 3. Sometimes it's even been late.
Okay.
But usually between 2 to 3 on SmackDown on Friday or Saturdays. Okay. And so,
well, the only thing about that is, when you're watching something live, so like I know when watching Dynamite live, and I'm sure they do it when Raw and SmackDown's on, they encourage everybody to put the hashtag, Raw, SmackDown, whatever the show is, and they're like, we're trending worldwide because there's people put hashtags because we told them to. Right. So that's when people are on social media, because you can't really. I mean, yeah, you can say you're watching it a day later when it's on Hulu, but it's not the same. There's probably not nearly as many people on during that time.
Probably not.
But yeah, I'm still figuring out the fucking just the best times to post, and there's a different time for each day on each platform. So I don't know. I seem to have gotten the best luck posting in the evening after 6. So I probably just keep going that way.
Well, most wrestling fans now are grown, okay? So most wrestling fans either came from the Attitude Era, that are still engaged, or they came from the Cena era. They were kids, but now they're probably grown. So, they have jobs and shit. I seriously doubt a kid's going to want a little 10-year-old that watches wrestling is going to be interested in our podcast. So I'd imagine, we're doing the key demographic here.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is what we're doing is the key demo.
You're right. So yeah, it's probably going to be more middle-aged people that's going to be older that's interested in this. But I don't know. Maybe we're wrong. I don't know. Maybe younger people are interested in knowing the history of the business.
Well, let us know if we're wrong.
Yeah. Tell us if we're wrong. If you're 19 and you want to know this shit, let us know.
So, you want to go ahead and jump into this?
Yeah. So what do you got for us this week?
Well, first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the 2 out of 3 falls thing.
Okay, let's go for it.
And there was some things whenever I was listening to the podcast over again, I was like, damn, I should have said some other things about it. This is just stuff coming from my own head. So this is kind of like my analysis of that situation. So if I had to guess, the reason for the 2 out of 3 falls thing, there probably was several reasons for it. One, remember how the champion, the world champion, was meant to make the local champion look good? Well, if you do a 2 out of 3 falls match, you give that other guy a chance to get 1 fall over the world champion.
Right. That's right.
So that makes them look good.
Yeah. You can put them over a little bit. So yeah.
And it also probably made it seem more fair. That way, somebody doesn't win the title off of a fluke victory.
Right.
They had to make a decisive victory over this person.
Right.
Also, the fans back then had more patience. They had more patience for a long match. And the wrestlers in the wrestling style at the time would be able to have more stamina. Now, there's obviously wrestlers now that could pull off 2 out of 3 falls matches or could have in the past. Your Ricky Steamboats, your Shawn Michaels, Bret Harts, Seth Rollins. But could you imagine what would have happened if, the Ultimate Warrior had to wrestle 2 out of 3 falls for all of his matches?
He would have been blown up.
He would have been blown up. Could you imagine what would have happened if Goldberg had to wrestle 2 out of 3 falls for all of his matches?
Yeah, I mean, he get pretty worn out doing all the jackhammers and spears and.
It would have deflated his whole thing.
Yeah.
So The fans are also
and a big part of him was the squash matches. There were so many squash matches during that run.
Another thing is fans are not patient anymore. If you don't have 15 tope suicidas in a match, fans think it's boring.
Yeah. Like I said, that's one of the things that I don't like with AEW. It feels like they do these things because they want to please their fan base, and their fan base wants furniture and blood and tope suicidas. and that one thing where somebody does a moonsault off the top rope to the outside to a group of 15 people standing there.
Yeah.
Whatever you call that, they want that.
Yeah, you got to have that. Otherwise, it's not worth watching.
Right.
So, anyways, that was just some thoughts I had about the 2 out of 3 falls thing, about why it went away, why it existed, and why it's no longer a place in wrestling right now.
Mm-hmm.
ECW. We're going to pick up where I left off.
Okay, I want to hear this shit.
So, WWE.com, an article called Paul Heyman on Shane Douglas and the Birth of Extreme, August 27th, 1994.
All right.
So basically, the NWA was trying to survive. The whole WCW fiasco happened where Flair took the belt, all that. You can listen to the first podcast to find out all about that. NWA's in trouble. And before it became Extreme Championship Wrestling, it was Eastern Championship Wrestling.
Right.
And out of all of the handful of NWA territories at the time, Eastern Championship Wrestling was the company that had the best television going on.
Right.
It might have been the only one that had television going on. Paul Heyman wanted Extreme to replace Eastern as it had broader appeal for its brand.
Yeah.
It wasn't Mid-Atlantic. It wasn't, some regional thing. It was Extreme. Extreme is universal.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't like the term hardcore, so he went with Extreme. So Shane Douglas, after winning a tournament to win the NWA title, cuts a promo. He recognizes the legacy of the NWA title before throwing it down and picking up the new ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling title, and basically said the NWA was outdated. Now, this is not the last time something like this would happen to the NWA.
He fucking buried it.
He did. And I've got so many mixed feelings about this situation because maybe I should be ashamed to admit this, but Teenage Glenn loved ECW.
A lot of people loved ECW.
Yeah, Teenage Glenn loved ECW. Now, looking back on it, I kind of think that some of the things were just ridiculous. New Jack falling 40 feet onto his brain on the concrete. That shouldn't have ever happened.
Do you remember the ECW infomercials? Like the really short infomercials? It was basically Paul Heyman trying to sell like the ECW home videos, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And they would run them over and over and over again.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
And the night, Kimono Wanalea tops the ECW arena.
Yeah. Oh, my God. You're bringing back some memories. Oh, my God.
And they had like a hotline number you could call.
Yes.
I don't know what the fuck you got out of calling the damn hotline, but they had a damn 1-800 number or whatever you could call. I don't know what happened when you called it though.
My family was so poor we couldn't even afford a phone. And so I never got to call one of those wrestling hotlines.
But you would have.
Yeah, I wanted to. If I had access to a phone, my parents' bill would have probably been $200 a month between me calling Gene Okerlund's hotline and finding out who was going to appear on Nitro and all this other shit. You know?
Fuck yeah. God, yeah, that was great.
I got to find out who's going to appear on Raw. They say a legend is returning, and you find out it's Terry Taylor.
The fucking Red Rooster.
Oh, my God. Did I ever tell you about the time that Terry Taylor wrestled in Valdosta, Georgia?
I was there.
You were there.
It was me, you, and Abe.
It was me, you, and Abe.
And
okay.
that fan was running around making fun of the Red Rooster.
Yes.
The planted fan. Was,
Yeah, Terry Taylor says something in a promo, like he wouldn't do something, but then this
Something
fan was
like,
the Red Rooster will.
Yeah. It was something like I think Terry Taylor had one of the belts for whatever indie fed that was, and so somebody said, "Hey, Terry Taylor, you gonna put that title up for grabs?" And then this fan got up, started running around, and goes, "No, but the Red Rooster will."
Oh my
and then he
God.
starts running around the
running around the whole arena. It was so ridiculous. Oh my God! And I'm actually going to talk about some other wrestlers in this episode today. Aside from that just came up out of nowhere. So, anyways. The wrestling hotlines and all that, man, that's a flashback to the 90s if there ever was one.
90s as fuck.
Oh, my God. So the ECW title paused for a little bit when ECW died and was later purchased by the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
The title would be brought back by the WWE in 2006 with their version of ECW, which was an abomination.
Mm. So during this time, was this where they had the... I guess it was a pay-per-view where it was Cena against RVD, I think.
Yeah, they had a couple of basically reunion pay-per-views.
Right.
And that was the precursor to bringing back ECW.
Right.
Were the reunion pay-per-views. And now, the reunion pay-per-views were actually awesome.
Mm-hmm. So
the product that they brought back was god-awful.
Who was running that? Because it probably wasn't Paul Heyman.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Who was booking it anyway?
Obviously, Vince McMahon had his hands on it.
Well,
and screwed it up.
Well, I mean, you can't let Vince do ECW. I mean, that's obviously not going to work.
It was terrible. The final champion of ECW was Ezekiel Jackson in 2010. And, of course...
I don't even remember him.
Yeah.
I really don't.
I barely remember him myself. Then, of course, ECW would be gotten rid of, and they replaced it with NXT.
Right. Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, so NXT came up from the ashes of ECW.
Yes.
Well, okay.
And NXT has been far more successful, even though the NXT 2.0 failed.
Right.
But there were still some things that were good out of the NXT 2.0. Mm-hmm. You had Braun Breaker holding down the fort with NXT 2.0.
Right.
And you know who Braun Breaker is, correct?
I know the name.
Okay, Braun Breaker is Rick Steiner's son.
Okay.
And imagine a wrestler that has both his dad's and his uncle's ring, physique, and promo skills.
And the steroids?
No, he's a little smaller. He's
Really?
a little on the smaller side
Well,
compared to Scott Steiner.
But that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, so I don't think he's into the steroids. So I saw a thing on Facebook where the WWE tried to get Scott Steiner to take a drug test, and he said, "I'll take one only if Triple H rides with me."
And he's absolutely right. He is absolutely fucking right.
And they never asked them to take a drug test ever again.
Absolutely fucking right. Goddamn right.
I gotta say something though, because this is a history podcast. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that story's true. That's just what I saw on Facebook. Okay. But it doesn't sound.
It sounds
unbelievable.
Right. It sounds right. It makes sense.
So that was Braun Breaker basically carried. They tried to revive NXT, and they got rid of the gold and black colors and replaced it with multicolored like paint splattered everywhere.
That's when they pretty much copied AEW.
They were copying AEW.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. And Triple H was no longer involved in it, and it was just booked terribly.
Right.
And they eventually got Shawn Michaels involved now, and they brought back the gold and black, although they got rid of the dark lighted arena that NXT had for the longest time, where it was kind of like the old days territories with the dimly lighted arenas. Like, you would expect smoke cigarettes
Yeah.
to be permeating the air of this
Right.
arena. But
the smoky arena.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's anything more I need to say about ECW. The title obviously had some claim to the lineage
Mhm.
because of this, but it was also, as I was about to say earlier, it was very disrespectful to the NWA title.
Right.
And I have mixed feelings about that. I don't like it when wrestlers throw titles in the trash. I don't like it when
That was Sonny, right?
Yeah. And I saw it recently in NXT when Cora Jade threw the women's tag belt in the trash whenever she broke up with her partner. That happened, and I like Cora Jade, but I didn't like that.
Right.
Then they got rid of the women's NXT titles and merged them with the women's titles, tag titles. And so they're gone. So we trashed this belt, and then later, we wonder why is it gone now? Well, now we know why, because the prestige was diminished.
Did they even bother to unify them in a match or anything, or did they just say, "Oh, well, those titles are now just the women's title"?
They unified them in a match on SmackDown.
Okay.
So ECW, the incident with Shane Douglas, disrespectful and genius at the same time.
Right.
Shane Douglas is basically like, fuck this title. We're Extreme Championship Wrestling now, and fuck you. And it was genius for starting a brand like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We literally threw the NWA title down.
Right.
The only thing they could have done more is set it in a trash can and set it on fire. That was the only way they could have went further with that.
So was he the first ECW champion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he was the first Extreme Championship Wrestling. But there were Eastern Championship Wrestling.
That's what I was getting at.
Champions before him.
Okay, gotcha.
So if you go on Wikipedia and look up the lineage for ECW, you're actually going to find Eastern Championship Wrestling champions that were also, in part of that whole thing.
Right.
So it's because basically at that time the NWA champion and the Eastern Championship Wrestling champion were the same thing.
Right.
So we're going to talk more about what happened to the NWA later. So I want to go into WCW.
All right, let's hear about this.
As we left off in the last episode, WCW split off from the NWA, and the NWA eventually, the title was no longer defended on WCW television. That's when it came over to ECW. In 1994, they still had the rights to the big gold belt. 1994, it was unified with the WCW Championship. I talk about that in the last episode. And then Hulk Hogan comes over and wins the big gold belt.
Yep.
And this is where we're at now, okay? So WCW was both the greatest thing that happened in wrestling and like a complete mess at the same time.
Yep.
They would have matches with stipulations and rules and then would not even follow those stipulations and rules. There were big, huge botches in WCW, like the 1997 Starrcade botch, where Hogan clearly won, and Bret Hart said, "No, that was a fast count. We're restarting the match." But it was very clearly a normal 1, 2, 3.
Right.
It made Sting look weak.
Yeah.
So there was just so much going on in WCW. One thing that was interesting about the WCW World Heavyweight Championship is that during the NWO era, when a member of the NWO won the World Championship, the title, when it was spray painted, was referred to as the NWO WCW World Heavyweight Championship. So that's something a lot of people, I think, missed and didn't pay attention to. Just a little thing that they added in there that I think was very interesting. So a lot of people didn't pay attention to that. I'm a fan of Cultaholic Wrestling on YouTube. He explains that in the year 2000, there were 25 world title changes. 25.
So they just didn't know what they wanted to do.
No.
Didn't have a clue. Was this the David Arquette run, or was that before?
David Arquette, God, what year was that? I'd have to look up when David Arquette won.
Because it was after Ready to Rumble came out. Because
Yeah.
it was pretty much a promotion for that movie is what the whole thing was, right?
Yeah.
So,
And that was something I wanted to talk a little bit about. Controversial title holders. So, controversial title holders existed going back even as far as Hogan. Hogan, when he first came over to WCW, very rarely defended in the title. And I remember reading in Pro Wrestling Illustrated which was a kayfabe magazine,
right.
There were letters to the editor, people complaining all the time that because there was this old rule that you had to defend the title at least once a month or you'd be stripped of the title. And Hulk Hogan went like 4 months without ever defending the title. And so that rule was just done away with in WCW. So that was controversial. It was a lot different than the WCW I described in the last episode that I grew up first starting to watch, where you had legitimate wrestlers and you had Dustin Rhodes and Steve Austin and Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair and Sting and Big Van Vader and Ron Simmons and Harlem Heat. You had all these legitimate wrestlers, and now you got Hulk Hogan fighting the Giant and the Yeti. You know, the Yeti that Tony Schiavone said, the Yeti. And it was just the most ridiculous thing. So it just didn't look good.
Right.
It just didn't look good.
Yeah. Terrible ideas.
And
was 2000 okay? So I just remembered this. There was a point where WCW decided to reset everything. Do you remember this?
Yeah, actually, was
that part of this whole 25 title changes thing?
I think so. That all happened under Vince Russo.
Yeah.
But instead of saying like what year it was, let's think of this as the Vince Russo era. Okay, all this insanity was the Vince Russo era. And also WCW trying to like recuperate from Vince Russo.
Right.
So we did wind up talking to our friend, and he said he could both defend and deny Vince Russo.
I mean, you can defend him to a point because I believe it was Cornette that said he had one good idea. He had one good idea.
Yeah, one good idea.
And that was it. So, yeah, maybe you can defend him on that, but I don't know. I'd be interested to see what he has to say, though.
I think Vince Russo killed WCW. That's how I view it.
Probably.
And speaking of that, Vince Russo is a former WCW World Heavyweight Champion.
Yep.
David Arquette is a former WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Which, in the last podcast, I said David Arquette, he made things up to me when his stellar indie career that he had that was well received by critics, and it was praised by just about anybody that observed it. It was amazing. If you haven't seen it, you need to watch the documentary You Can't Kill David Arquette. It's freaking amazing.
I still need to watch that. I haven't got around to it yet.
Yeah, I think right now it might be on Hulu, if I'm not mistaken. If you got Hulu, I think you can watch it. It's really good. I've watched it twice. It's amazing.
I do remember the Vince Russo thing, though, because wasn't he being, like, carted around in, like, a Pope-like glass case thing, if I remember correctly?
That was one thing they did, yeah.
Like I saw that shit, and I'm like, this is why I don't watch this shit. So,
yeah.
I'm not sure, other than the very last Nitro, I'm not sure if I ever watched a full episode of Nitro.
Really?
Yeah. I I remember because when the purchase happened and they had the simulcast, I had 2 VCRs and I recorded both shows. and
VCR.
Yeah, I had a couple VCRs. This was 2001, and yeah, I just recorded both shows and then watched them later.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So WCW was a hot mess around this time.
Yep.
But yeah, Sid Vicious, he lost the belt because they reset all the titles.
Yeah, because that's the little bit of that show I watched. They made him because like pretty much all the talent came out, and they said you have to turn in the title, and he walked down and he handed the title to Russo.
Yeah,
and then I think that's how it happened. But yeah, I do remember that reset.
It was dumb. It was so dumb. Eric Bischoff didn't always make the best decisions, but he was nowhere near as bad as Vince Russo. Oh, my God, it was so bad. So in 2001, the title was acquired by the WWF, okay? So now we're going to talk about the WWF/WWE.
Okay.
The WWF ran an invasion angle using the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. So WCW died, and it was a failed product, but there was still a lot of property that was very valuable, a lot of talent that was very valuable, and WWE would later use a lot of this talent to win their own championships, like Booker T and Hulk Hogan and others. Even though Hulk Hogan was originally their talent, but
right.
You know, he basically was an outsider when he came back to the WWE. So the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, though, at this point, prestige-wise, had taken a beating.
Absolutely.
So with the flawed booking decision of giving David Arquette the title, and maybe I'm jumping ahead too quickly. I need to talk more about those particular champions.
Okay.
And what happened to the title, because I feel like the loss of prestige in giving the title to these two guys is worth mentioning. And also I want to mention another controversy in a minute too. So David Arquette, he won the title when in a tag match, whoever got the pin would get the title. Literally. His partner, Diamond Dallas Page, was the world champion.
Mm-hmm.
But Vince Russo pinned, I believe it was Eric Bischoff.
Okay.
To win
What the fuck?
yes.
What the fuck? God damn it.
Vince,
fuck this shit.
David.
God damn.
David Arquette.
We might be ruining people's days by reminding them of this. I hope we're not losing listeners, but okay.
Yeah, David Arquette won the title. I can't remember exactly who it was. It was friggin' Eric Bischoff or whatever, somebody. But he pinned them and won the title. And DDP celebrates losing the title by celebrating David Arquette's victory. And the fans immediately hate it.
Well, of course they do.
It was just awful. It was awful.
Mm-hmm.
David Arquette wound up giving the money that he earned from this to the families of Brian Pillman and Owen Hart.
Okay.
So David Arquette as a human being is an excellent individual.
Right.
And actually, Brian Pillman's son, who now wrestles the AEW, mentions that in the documentary. He was an indie wrestler.
Right.
There's a lot of indie wrestlers that you now see on the main two products
right.
that were in that documentary that were wrestling in the indies at that time. And
what documentary was that?
The You Can't Kill David Arquette.
Okay,
and
okay.
Brian Pillman's son is on there.
Okay.
And he said nothing but good things about David Arquette. He said, David Arquette helped my family out.
Right.
So David Arquette is a stand-up human being. he was a lifelong wrestling fan. He expressed apprehension about this travesty that occurred, and Vince Russo convinced him that no, this is actually good for wrestling. This is a good idea. We need you to do this.
It sounds like he knew better.
Yeah,
but he was in a tough spot. I mean, like you said, he was a lifelong fan, and he's getting an opportunity to be in the business, so he's probably not going to turn it down, even if it is a bad idea.
Yeah, if you told me, hey, Glenn, you're going to win the world title tomorrow, I'm like, okay.
It might destroy the title, but you got your moment.
But there had already been things that didn't help the title, like when the finger poke of doom happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so reviewing the finger poke of doom, Goldberg beat Hollywood Hogan at the Georgia Dome in 1998 to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship.
Right.
At Starrcade of that year, Kevin Nash defeats Goldberg after Scott Hall used a cattle prod, seemingly against Kevin Nash's understanding and knowledge, to help him defeat Goldberg. Kevin Nash does the jackknife powerbomb, jackknife pin, 1, 2, 3, it's over.
Right.
Then the next month on Nitro, there's a match between Hollywood Hogan and Kevin Nash, and Hogan does a finger poke to Kevin Nash, and Kevin Nash lays down for Hogan's pin.
Right.
Okay, there is an insane number of wrestlers in world title matches in WCW that laid down for a pin in a world title match. And I know I'm thinking of at least 2 at the top of my head. There might have been 3. But any number greater than 0 is an insane number.
Yeah.
You never should have a world title match where somebody lies down to pin the other person. Right. Now, with Kevin Nash and Hogan, it was kayfabe. With the Jarrett Hogan thing, it was a mixture of kayfabe and shoot. That happened at Bash at the Beach.
Yep.
And our Vince Russo fan.
Yeah, he was there. He was in
there.
Attendance. Yeah.
He saw this.
Yeah.
With his eyes.
Yeah.
And he still can defend Vince Russo.
Yeah.
So we got to hear this. We got to hear this.
Yeah.
He saw this travesty to the WCW World title. Vince Russo won the belt and didn't even have the courtesy to drop the belt to a wrestler. He just vacated the title. He just dropped the title. So
didn't Vince do that too?
Vince McMahon.
Because I seem to remember him winning the title and then he vacated it like the next week on Raw or something.
But, okay, that's another thing too. I'm trying to remember what happened when Vince McMahon.
I can't remember the details around it either.
Okay, so Vince McMahon did win the WWE title, WWF title, and I'd have to look it up for the exact details of how he lost the belt. But I would say, go ahead and look it up.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say that even though I don't agree with Vince McMahon winning that belt or the ECW belt, it still, to me, is different than Vince Russo or the whole thing with David Arquette. And the reason why is because Vince McMahon was also a successful heel wrestling personality.
Right.
Vince Russo had heat, but he had a different weight. He had a different kind of heat. Vince McMahon had, we want to see this guy get his ass kicked heat. Right. Vince Russo had go away heat. We don't like you.
Right.
We don't want you here. You're ruining our shit.
Yeah.
And so it was a completely different level of heat. We'll probably do a whole entire show on wrestlers that tarnished the titles that they had in their possessions and do a whole show just about that.
Okay. I got the information here on Vince's title run here, his little mini title run. So Vince McMahon won the WWE Championship in a September 16th, 1999 episode of SmackDown. He defeated Triple H thanks to interference from Steve Austin. And this is from Sportskeeda, by the way, sportskeeda.com. And then it says that it lasted less than a week. He relinquished the title on Raw that following Monday.
Okay, so yeah, your memory does serve you correctly. There's another wrestler I think is worth mentioning, and actually I have a memory that's tied to this event that's interesting. So Chris Benoit actually won the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, and then basically immediately dropped the title and went to the WWE.
Wasn't that where he said thanks, but I don't want your world title, and then left, or something like that?
I don't know about that.
Or was that somebody
part.
else?
I don't know about that.
It might have been
part.
I could have swore somebody won the title and then said thanks, but because I think it was Chris Benoit, because I think during the match the entire roster was out on the stage watching the match. Does this sound right? Does this sound, or is this somebody else I'm thinking of?
I'm struggling to remember.
Yeah,
because I wasn't a big WCW fan at this point of wrestling.
I wasn't either. This is just clips that
I was
seen.
watching the WWE more, the WWF or whatever. Chris Benoit drops the title and goes to the WWE in that group with Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, and Perry Saturn.
Yep.
Okay. And he was supposed to be at an autograph signing event organized by WCW in Valdosta, Georgia, at the Wayne Fryer Mobile Home sales place.
But he jumped ship.
Yeah. So me and this guy that's a big fan of Vince Russo.
He will forever be known as the fan of Vince Russo.
Yeah. Forever wear that shame. So me and him show up. We'll have to put him on the show so we can actually call him by his name.
Yeah. No, we should just don't even release his real name. Just keep calling him fan of Vince. Okay, so fan of Vince Russo. What do you have to say about this? We just keep doing that.
I don't know. Maybe he'll agree with this. There's only one good thing that can be said about Vince Russo. So there's this signature signing event at this mobile home sales place.
Right.
I mean, this is Valdosta, Georgia we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, we're podunk country. Disco Inferno was there. One of the Nitro girls was there. And Lash LaRue, whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Lash LaRue.
Okay, I remember him. Yeah.
And we're like, where's Chris Benoit? Nobody would tell us.
Right.
Because, that's who we wanted to see was Chris Benoit.
Right. He was the attraction. Yeah.
And he was not there, and we found out, like the next Monday night, saw him on Raw or whatever. That's where he went. So we figured it out. We were able to figure out why he wasn't at the event is because he jumped ship right at that exact time that I was supposed to meet Chris Benoit. He had jumped ship. So that I missed out on meeting Chris Benoit. Of course, there's a lot of shit that can be said about Chris Benoit later.
We'll save that for another time.
Yeah. So, we'll save that for another time. There's a lot of shit that can be said about Chris Benoit, and we'll get at that some other time. So, but I mean, speaking of controversy, the WWE has tried to forget about Chris Benoit,
right?
But he wrestled against other people who did very great work, and he did great work.
Right.
Of course, his reputation is forever tarnished.
Mm-hmm.
It always will be. But that doesn't mean that the people that he fought against should have their work invalidated. He was part of the wrestling lineages.
Right.
So I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure if the WWE has all the wrestling title lineages, I'm pretty sure they took him out. I would guess. I don't know. I haven't looked it up. If Chris Benoit's still left in there,
I didn't even think about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to look and see how they handle that. That'd be interesting to look up. So by the time the WCW title got to the WWE, the WCW title had just taken a flogging. It had taken a beating. It was ran over in the mud. It just was desecrated.
Right.
And we're bringing this title to the WWE, and we're bringing some job guys plus Booker T, and basically doing an invasion angle. No Hulk Hogan, no Hollywood Hogan, no Kevin Nash, no Scott Hall, no Sting, no Goldberg, no, none of that. And we got a bunch of job guys that are representing WCW. Of course, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, and, they'd already jumped ship, but, I mean, they did it before this invasion angle. Now they were part of WWE.
Yep.
And the invasion angle just failed. So they ran this angle without having the talent to make it work. A lot of these people, when they're the reason why they didn't have these people is these people had guaranteed contracts, so they got paid to sit at home.
Right.
Who would not do that?
Right.
If somebody said, "Oh yeah, by the way, Glenn, you're not going to have your job for 2 years, but we're going to pay you this like ridiculous $1 million salary for the next 2 years for you to just sit at home." You know what I'm doing? I'm sitting at home.
Right.
On my ass. So that's what happened with the whole invasion angle. WCW World Heavyweight Championship. When the invasion angle thankfully ended after Survivor Series in 2001, the title was then branded as the World Heavyweight Championship. And this is prior to the World Heavyweight Championship that became the 2002 to 2013 World Heavyweight Championship. At Vengeance in 2001, Chris Jericho beat Steve Austin and The Rock to become the undisputed WWF champion. So this was the WWF champion had his own legitimately good prestige aside from the Vince McMahon stain and
Right.
Maybe a few not so great choices for champion. And now the title has been unified with the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, the big gold belt.
Yep.
That has a lineage that dates back to 1905.
Right.
George Hackenschmidt.
George
okay?
Hackenschmidt, God damn it.
George fucking Hackenschmidt. That's what he did to you. He hacked and he schmitted. Then you were dead because he was a hooker.
Fucking love hookers, man. Fucking love hookers.
And so was Frank Gotch. If you don't know about hookers and wrestling, you got to listen to the first podcast.
Yep.
We're not going to explain it now. You just have to listen to the first one.
Yeah, you'll have to listen to the first one.
So to learn about all the great hookers in wrestling, like Lou Thez, William Regal.
Yeah.
Well, William Regal's a shooter, not a hooker.
Yeah.
All right. But he could be a hooker.
He could be.
Yeah. So,
I say we give him the title of hooker.
Yeah.
He deserves it.
We now pronounce William Regal.
Yeah.
Hooker.
That's right.
All right.
I wish I was a hooker.
I wish I was a hooker too. My God.
Yep.
We would beat some ass.
And we would. Man.
We would beat some ass. All right. So the brand split in 2002. They did the brand split because they had so much talent, and the titles were separated again. WWE and World. Inaugural champion was Triple H. The belt was just merely handed to him by Ric Flair.
Yeah.
So bad choice, WWE. Bad choice.
Let's hear about it.
Ric Flair basically unveiled this title, which was the big gold belt with the WWE logo.
Yep.
Somewhat inconspicuously placed at the top of the title.
Yep.
And Flair gave Triple H the belt. He didn't win it in a fictitious tournament in Brazil or Germany, like they do with most championships when they just give it to somebody.
Right.
They could have made a fictitious. I guess maybe in the internet era you couldn't do that.
Right.
You couldn't have a fictitious tournament where wrestlers from all over the world participated for the world title in, say, Peru or something.
Right.
So that didn't happen. Inaugural champion was Triple H. Unfortunately, the WWE didn't do the best job with picking their world champions. Mm-hmm. It started off pretty hot, but it eventually cooled down towards the end of it, where it was basically an upper mid-card title. I mean,
wow.
Alberto Del Rio,
This was about the time that I quit watching the dub.
Yeah. Well,
because I remember he was one of the first. Del Rio was one of the first people I remember hearing about that I didn't remember from when I was watching it.
Wait a minute. Well, did Alberto Del Rio win that title or the WWE title?
I'm not sure.
I gotta find this out. We're looking it up right now as we're doing the podcast. We do our research while on the job.
Yeah. Nothing you can do
Two-time
about it.
WWE champion. So I'm wrong. Okay. Well, then they disgraced both titles. They disgraced both titles.
What happened to that guy, by the way? Did he just disappear? Did he die?
He's in, I guess he might, I don't know what he's doing now. I mean, why don't we just call him up? I mean, at this point, we could probably pay him $25 to show up on the podcast.
Yes, probably.
We need, you know what we need to do? We need to see how much it would cost for Virgil to appear on our podcast.
Okay.
We need to research that.
Okay.
I want Virgil on the podcast.
All right.
He could talk to us about winning the $1 million championship.
Right.
So I want to know what that was like. An unauthorized champion.
Yep.
So Virgil, maybe we can get Virgil to show up on the podcast one day. I've heard of fans paying Virgil money to just sit down at their house and watch a wrestling pay-per-view with them. And I'm like, that is the most badass thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, say what you want to say about Virgil, and I would definitely pay that man to come to my house and watch a wrestling pay-per-view with me. I mean, he didn't know fuck all what was going on. But he was there watching it with them. You know?
Well, then we're going to have to look into this then.
We get to get him to tell us about what it was like winning the $1 million belt. What it was like to be in the NWO.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was part of a lot of wrestling history.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just pay him to show up and do stuff.
Sounds good to me.
So we need sponsors so we can afford stuff like that.
Do you hear that, Creature Comfort? Sponsor us, goddammit. Taking a nice refreshing sip of the Tropicalia.
It's amazing.
The IPA. It's delicious. The IPA that is from Athens, Georgia.
The IPA is helping me not to say all the time.
Holy shit, you could sell it that way. Like if somebody's got to give a speech or something, just have a Creature Comforts Tropicalia. And you won't say during your speech.
You'll just be so eloquent.
Right. God damn. So much money here. So much money. Okay.
So we need money so we can hire Virgil
to
be on our show. We won't have to rely on our friends to call in.
Ring Chronicles.
We can actually
sponsored by Creature Comforts. Has a nice ring to it.
So Triple H was just given the belt, and that's how the belt started off. I hate shit like that.
Yeah.
I hate.
Just here's the belt.
Yeah, here's the belt. You got it. You earned it. Triple H.
Now, can't you say the same thing about Shane Douglas picking up the ECW title?
No.
Okay,
because he was he was the Eastern Championship Wrestling champion. He just traded out one belt for another.
Okay, fair enough.
It's different. He was the champion.
Okay.
He was the NWA champion.
Okay, fair enough.
George Hackenschmidt. 1905. George Hackenschmidt.
Yeah, George Hackenschmidt.
1905.
1905.
He had that lineage when he threw down the belt.
I wonder if that T-shirt would sell. Just George Hackenschmidt, 1905. Can we?
George Hackenschmidt. Yeah, we need to find a way to do merchandise once we get enough viewers. More than 20.
Probably shouldn't talk about when anybody's stealing our fucking ideas.
I know. Like somebody's gonna like create a podcast about this and actually have like money to put down on it. And,
Yeah.
like, advertise it.
Yeah.
So, but they wouldn't have me and you, Lance. So,
oh man. Okay, so yeah, Triple H was handed the belt by Ric Flair.
yes.
Okay.
The world title lasted until 2013.
Okay.
When Randy Orton defeated John Cena to unify the belt with the WWE Championship.
Okay. So they were unified again.
Yes.
Okay, so you had the brand split and you had a belt split.
Yeah.
And now they were unified again.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they were split
Yep.
and the lineage split,
Yep.
and then they were unified again.
Okay.
However, with this time,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't the undisputed WWF Championship. It was the WWE Championship.
Okay.
So basically, the world title just dropped off the face of the earth.
Okay.
Okay. So the next unification, well, it's like a partial unification,
Mm-hmm.
would be when Roman Reigns beat Brock Lesnar to win the WWE title in 2022. He is referred to as the undisputed WWE Galactic Emperor, Andromeda Galaxy, Star Wars, Death Star, Star Trek, Spock, Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, 2001 Space Odyssey, Close Encounters of the Third Kind champion.
Okay.
All
right. You can't just shorten it to undisputed WWE Universal Champion.
Right.
If you want.
Yeah, you can do that because everything that I just said is in the universe.
Right.
So the WWE Championship retains the lineage to the belts that were before it. So it doesn't. I'm explaining this awkwardly. The WWE belt has the same lineage that it's always had, even though it's been somewhat unified with the Universal Championship.
Okay. So
It's still a separate, distinct title, but they're presenting the two belts together as the undisputed WWE Universal Championship.
Okay, so let's. I want to step back just a little bit. So in 2013, Randy Orton defeated John Cena to unify the belts. Then it's just the WWE Championship. Then you had the match with Reigns and Lesnar in 2022, and now
Reigns was already the Universal Champion at that time.
and Brock Lesnar was the WWE Champion.
Yes.
Okay, so this was. Oh, I see. Okay, so in between these two matches, the Universal Championship was
Pulled
created.
out of Vince's ass.
It pulled out of Vince's ass. We discussed that in the first
Yeah.
episode. It was pulled right out of his ass. So then you ended up with another unification, another title unification.
Right. And that's another thing that also ticks me off is pulling out belts out of people's asses.
Well, what was the purpose of the Universal Championship? Was it the highest? Was it the highest championship?
God. It
Or
was
was it-
treated as such. It was treated as such, which I thought was pretty disrespectful to the WWE Championship, which had been around a lot longer, in my opinion, had a lot more prestige.
Because they diluted the championship.
Yeah. So the Universal title was made to represent. Now get this, Lance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hold on to something really tight.
Okay, I'm holding on to the table.
The WWE Universal Championship was to represent the WWE Universe. Yes. That's what it represents.
So it sounds like it was a people's championship.
yeah.
What the fuck?
But, you know, the WWE Universe is a branding logo thing
Right.
It's the fans.
Yeah.
It's the merchandise that we're selling.
Right.
It's our deals with Saudi Arabia.
Right.
It's it's all of the WWE.
Right.
Is the WWE universe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And fans have made fun of this title since its inception.
Okay. So a lot of people just never took it seriously.
Yeah. Although it was treated as their best title. Okay.
Well, they tried to push it that way.
Yeah,
but it wasn't
did.
really accepted.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was accepted, but it still, there's a segment of the fans that mock it.
Okay.
So, I will say this. The title was booked very well. Okay. Probably the only questionable champion would be Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
But I even think that was okay because even though the fans got tired of Goldberg coming back and like botching matches and stuff like that, when Goldberg actually won the belt, like if you watch any of those matches, because I think he won the belt twice. I want to say the fans were in on it, and they were really glad to see this guy. Because you got to think about it. At this point, fans were very nostalgic for that era of wrestling.
Sure.
And, yeah, the Universal Championship 2 times. I was correct. The fans were very nostalgic of this Attitude Era that Goldberg was a part of. So, you know, anybody that came from that era was well received until the fans got tired of him again.
Sure.
So, by the time he lost the belt both times, the fans were already tired of him. You know, so they brought him back after having him away for a while, and he won the belt again. Some fans were miffed about it, but, you know, if you listen to the crowd reaction, it was hot. It was positive. By the time that it was time for him to lose the belt, however, the fans had already moved on and turned against him.
Right.
So the Universal Championship has been treated very respectfully.
Okay.
It has been treated well, and it's been treated as a top title. And Roman Reigns has really brought a shit ton of prestige to that title with his historic reign. Now, the WWE, though, you got to watch out for them. They're putting out these, like, stuff, these memes, and it has, like, Roman Reigns' reign being close to, like, Bruno Sammartino and Hulk Hogan. But they're picking, like, the lesser reign of Bruno Sammartino. They're not comparing it to his original reign or whatever, where he held it for 1,000,000 years.
Right.
So, and we talked about in the last video that Bruno Sammartino's reign was a lot different than Roman Reigns' reign. Okay. Well, I want to do a episode one day where we compare Ric Flair's 16 to 25 championship reigns to John Cena's reigns. And compare, you know, those reigns one day. And wrestling titles were just treated a lot different in the past. There was a lot more defenses in the past than they are now.
Right.
So Roman Reigns beats Brock Lesnar. He's already Universal champion. That title was pulled out of his ass, and now he's the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. There is now a World Heavyweight Champion, which is at the moment that we're doing this podcast, it could change tomorrow.
Right.
And Seth Rollins.
Right.
That belt was pulled out of Vince's ass.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned this one last week. It's the one that looks like, or it resembles somewhat the big gold belt. And I have since looked at it, but it doesn't nearly look as good. I think what ruins it is the big ass fucking
WWE
logo in the middle of it.
Yeah.
God damn.
They had to put a giant logo on everything.
Yeah.
And it's so bad.
Yeah. I mean the other belts, you know what kind of got this podcast started, that video where they kept unveiling the belts. The belt is basically just a giant WWE logo.
Yeah.
That's basically all it is with a frame around it. It's god damn.
Now there's a lot of symbolism in that belt that I think is pretty interesting.
The Seth Rollins belt?
Seth Rollins world title.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, apparently, like, the lions are from the McMahon family crest and all this other shit that's hidden in the belt.
I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was good belt design thinking, you know.
I mean,
You know what I wanted, Lance? You know what I wanted?
What?
I wanted it like an old girlfriend I couldn't get over. I wanted the big gold belt.
The big gold belt, yeah. This was the missed opportunity you were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have brought back the big gold belt. Okay, so you got to explain this now. You have what Roman Reigns have. He's the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. And then you have Seth Rollins as the world champion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and this title was invented. They didn't bring back a title for this. This was just created out of Vince McMahon's ass.
Yes.
So what's the let me put it this way. How does it compare to the WWE Universal Championship and the Intercontinental Championship? Is it in between the two?
The World Championship?
Yeah. The one.
So, okay, that's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fans have looked at the world title that Seth Rollins holds as a consolation title.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
You see, but the wording just pisses me off because it's the World Championship.
Yeah.
And it's the World Championship has always been the title.
Yeah.
It's always, whatever company you're in, their World Champ, that's the highest title.
That's the highest title.
But it's not now, and it's being considered a fucking consolation title?
Yeah. Now, the thing that does bother me about that, though, is there was a tournament for this belt.
Okay.
And Seth Rollins really busted his ass to put on some good matches.
Okay.
In this tournament.
So it kind of sounds like the Owen Hart tournament in AEW.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah. And Seth Rollins has taken a lot of offense to fans saying that it's a consolation title.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you got to think about how much the belt means to the wrestlers.
Right.
And I get that, and I respect that. But this is my opinion, and I'm allowed to have an opinion. The belt should have been the World Heavyweight Championship with the lineage of the World Heavyweight Championship that was from 2002 to 2013.
Okay.
And it would have had a direct lineage. They could do whatever they wanted to do with the undisputed galactic emperor,
Cosmic
Emperor Palpatine,
right.
Death Star heavyweight championship.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
They could do whatever they wanted to do with that title.
Yeah.
And defile it in any way they wanted to do it. And then have this other title be the 1905 lineage George Hackenschmidt belt. But they chose not to do that. They chose to pull a belt out of Vince's ass and create this title that came out of nowhere. So what are fans supposed to think it is? You got Roman Reigns walking around with 3 belts.
Yeah.
And there's no belt on Raw because all 3 belts are on SmackDown.
Right.
What are fans supposed to think this belt is? A consolation title.
Yep.
It does rank higher than Intercontinental title, but here's the problem with that.
Okay.
The Intercontinental champion, Gunther, is having a historic reign of his own that's over 400 days.
Holy shit.
He is inching up close to beating Honky Tonk Man's reign.
Ooh.
Yes. And so, prestige-wise, the Intercontinental title, in my view, if you beat Gunther right now, that is going to be a more historic, more meaningful victory than beating Seth Rollins at the moment.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of things that doesn't make sense, okay? Like the NXT North American title.
What the fuck? Hold on. I've never heard of that shit. Where'd that come from? The NXT North American title. Not the
Dominic Mysterio is the current champion. Rey Mysterio's son.
Where the fuck did that come up with? Because normally you hear like U.S. champion, but now there's North American champion.
There's a North American champion.
There's a champion that covers Canada, U.S., and Mexico now.
Well, there's
North America.
There's Central America is part of North America in a way. You got North America, South America, Central America is part of North America.
That's not the point. The point is it's fucking stupid.
And it's
God
like,
damn.
Well, Jim Cornette brought it up. Like the North American
You're diluting
title,
all the other titles.
The North American title is ranked lower than the U.S. title. Yes.
I I'm gonna need several episodes to wrap my head around this bullshit. I mean, look back in the day, I thought there was a lot of belts. Well, like in the Attitude Era, I thought there was a lot of belts because you had the world title, the IC title, the European Championship, and the lightweight championship.
Oh,
Remember
for a
that?
while there was the UK Championship,
I did.
the UK Tag Champions, and the UK Women's Championship.
When did that? Was that part of NXT?
NXT UK.
Okay, NXT UK. Okay, but and okay, so okay, so where is the US? Is the US title still a thing?
Yes.
Who has that belt, and where does it rank?
Currently, Austin Theory has the belt,
Okay,
and it's considered a secondary title. Because that's another thing too.
secondary, like the IC title is a secondary title.
Yeah,
So it's a parallel title to the IC
to
title.
the IC title.
Okay.
Yeah. Eventually, we're going to get into like Triple Crown and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Triple
Grand
Crown
Slam champions.
Grand Slam
Yeah.
champions, and all that.
Yep.
And
What the fuck is going on?
the U.S. title ranks at the same level as the Intercontinental title. So the Intercontinental title, I guess, represents like continents. I don't know what it represents, but I never understood that.
Yeah.
I'm like, isn't the Intercontinental title like a world title?
Yeah.
But it's not.
No,
it's the Intercontinental title, but.
yeah.
I guess maybe it represents the continents, but doesn't represent the oceans. And the world title represents the ocean. So we got to have a match with like Roman Reigns out in the sea. So Austin Theory is the U.S. champion. There's a match coming up on SummerSlam. I think it's LA Knight's going to be in the match, but I don't think he's going to win it. I think Santos Escobar is going to win it.
So what is it, like a 4-way?
I think it's a
triple
4-way
threat or something.
4-way or something other. Let me see here.
So this is for the U.S. title.
Yeah. SummerSlam.
Is the U.S. title assigned to a show, or does it float, or are they not doing that anymore?
U.S. title. The Intercontinental title and U.S. title are assigned to shows.
Okay.
U.S. title, if I'm correct, is SmackDown.
Okay.
So let's see. Oh, gosh, 4 title matches, 2 UFC champions headline WWE SummerSlam. All right, this is Newsweek. So we've got Gunter versus Drew McIntyre. SummerSlam Battle Royal presented by Slim Jim. Glad Slim Jim's still around.
Sponsor us, Slim Jim. God damn it.
I thought there was a match with freaking Rey Mysterio and what the heck happened to that match?
Well, I did see something about
maybe it was a match that was on a episode of SmackDown that I just forgot about or something.
Well, now that you say that, I did see something about they took off a women's match because of time. They didn't have enough time for a match or something. So
yeah,
I don't know
I'm probably thinking of an episode of SmackDown or something like that.
Okay.
But anyways, the freaking U.S. champion. Let me see if anything's changed that I don't know about. United States champion is the current champion is Austin Theory, who's in his second reign.
Mm-hmm.
So this belt claims lineage going back to 1975.
The U.S. title.
The U.S. title.
Okay.
Yeah. It came out of the Jim Crockett Promotions, and it was the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship Mid Atlantic. There were a lot of U.S. titles around that time, but this is the one that survived to this day.
Okay.
The one that come from Mid Atlantic territory.
Okay.
So that belt, I need to do a whole entire episode on just the U.S. title because it's so interesting how the U.S. title has survived. The NWA collapse, the WCW collapse. This United States title is, and all these other U.S. titles failed and died. This title is still up and running in the WWE. And there's one wrestler I have to give a lot of credit to that brought a lot of prestige to the United States title in the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And his name is John Cena.
Yeah, I remember because that's when he was like rapper John Cena. wearing the chain
Well,
around his neck, right?
Also, he won the belt later in his career towards the end.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he would do like open challenges,
Uh-huh.
on, like shows and stuff.
Right.
And instead of fans, it was received well because he wasn't hogging up the main event scene all the time.
Right.
By having the U.S. title.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I brought up the U.S. title just because I was trying to figure out where different belts ranked. So we got off on a tangent there, but anyway.
Now we're going to talk about NWA Confusion from Hell.
Okay, let's. I'm already confused.
All right, this is about to get it's about to get really messed up right now. Okay, it's about to get fucked up. Okay.
Okay.
You ready?
I guess.
All right. So the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, after leaving off the first episode, after WCW split and the ECW fiasco, the title went back to the Indies. Chris Candido won the title in a tournament that was partially sponsored by Jim Cornette before Dan the Beast Severn won it in 1995. Okay. So, Wikipedia noted something that was interesting, that when Severn held the title, competition was lacking. Severn tried to go around and defend it in different territories, but there wasn't good competition. He held the belt for, according to his Facebook account that he posted this recently, 1,479 days. While he's the NWA Heavyweight Champion, NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, he also won 3 UFC championships.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
It's Dan the Beast Severn.
Yeah, right. So that's about 4 years that he says he has the NWA championship,
and he never lost it. It was stripped.
Okay.
So, in 1998. Lance, I don't know if you remember this. It might have been before your time. The NWA was a faction on Raw.
I don't remember that. I mentioned in our first episode that the first episode of Raw that I watched was the Bang 316 episode, and I believe that was in September of '98.
So this might have been before your time.
Yeah, probably was.
So you missed a lot.
I don't remember this. Yeah.
So the NWA title appeared on WWE television, or WWF television at the time. It didn't give the NWA what they wanted. It didn't help out a whole lot.
So this was supposed to give a boost to NWA.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it was basically the WWE, letting some stuff go through the forbidden door,
right?
And it didn't help them none.
Yeah.
NWA was in bad shape.
Okay.
So, post WCW demise, the first major competitor to the WWE that came along was NWA TNA.
Yep.
Okay. The NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, according to the Wikipedia article, in June of 2002, Jerry and Jeff Jarrett formed NWA TNA.
Yep.
Okay. And this is back for about 2 years. They had pay-per-views.
I remember that.
That you would have to, because they didn't have a TV deal.
Right.
So you would have to buy the pay-per-views to watch the matches.
It was like weekly pay-per-views, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was something like that. Yeah,
I remember that because they were like $10 or something.
So it was weekly pay-per-views. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right. Dan Severn was stripped of the NWA title. Ken Shamrock won a battle royal and became the new NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Okay.
So in 2004, the TNA withdrew from the NWA.
Okay.
However, TNA retained the rights to use the NWA World Heavyweight and Tag Team titles until May the 13th of 2007, according to Wikipedia.
Okay.
When the agreement ended and TNA creating its own titles. Okay, now here's where it's about to get really weird, okay? On May the 13th of 2000, same day as the Sacrifice pay-per-view. I don't know if it's the same day as the Scott Steiner Math promo Sacrifice pay-per-view.
No, I think that was like 3 years later.
Yeah.
I think that was like 2009, 2010.
Yeah, I think it was later too.
Yeah.
TNA lost the rights to the NWA titles. Champion was stripped. Now, here's the thing that I don't understand.
And the champion was?
At the time, Christian Cage.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Now, here's the thing that I could not figure out in my research. Why the fuck did TNA not prepare for this shit and have a contingency plan in case the contract wasn't renewed?
Right.
Did it just get missed? Was it like taxes that didn't get paid or something and the county's knocking on the door?
Yeah.
Like, what happened here?
Mm-hmm.
The night of that pay-per-view, the graphics on the screen indicated that Team 3D and Cage were the NWA champions. Team 3D being the tag team champions.
Okay.
Okay, NWA tag team champions and NWA champion. Kurt Angle beat Cage and Sting to win the World Heavyweight Championship.
Okay.
So later on, according to an article on pwtorch.com by James Caldwell, Jim Cornette did a kayfabe explanation for why there was now going to be a new TNA title, and is that due to the popularity of TNA, they needed their own belts.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the kayfabe explanation for why TNA now had their own belts and no longer used the NWA titles.
Okay.
And the with TNA, there were rebrandings. You know, for a while it was Global Force Wrestling. What a terrible name.
Yeah, I recall something about that.
And Impact Wrestling. Impact sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, at first I was unsure about it.
Yeah.
But it's over time it's settled well with me.
Right.
Calling it Impact. When we get our Vince Russo supporter on the phone, he actually knows a great deal about TNA. I would say probably more than I do.
Okay.
Because he actively watched it.
Okay.
And he might be a good person to glean some TNA information about. Maybe he can tell us what the fuck they were thinking.
Okay.
So,
Maybe.
all right, now we're about to talk about NWA on the indie circuit.
Okay.
So after the NWA titles are lost from TNA, Adam Pearce wins a tournament to become the new NWA champion in 2007.
Okay.
From PW Insider, in 2012, basically there was, I'm not going to get into details about this, but there was a lawsuit that involved, insurance fraud or something like that.
Okay.
And basically the settlement was that the rights to the NWA would be transferred from Pro Wrestling Organization LLC to International Wrestling Corp LLC.
Okay.
All right, this is significant because after 64 years, the organization went from being a membership model to a licensing model, licensing the NWA brand name to wrestling promotions, which caused many promotions to cut ties with the NWA, including some of the biggest promotions that had been hosting NWA matches since 2007.
Right.
Okay. I witnessed a video by number 7 Levels of Hate, all one word, number sign, pound.
Not hashtag pound.
Yeah. Pierce steps down as the NWA champion. And both Pierce and Cabana state that they do not want the title, and they leave the title in the ring after they had a disagreement with NWA leadership.
Okay.
So basically, you got two wrestlers fighting for this title, and they both I don't want it. And the other one's I don't want it.
Right.
So they left it in the ring, and you remember when I said that the title being thrown on the ground wouldn't be the last time that happened to the NWA title? Well, here you go. It happens again.
It keeps getting thrown on the ground. Nobody wants it.
Nobody wants the NWA title. I'll tell you what. I'll take the NWA title. I mean, think about it. What worse could you do to the belt now? I mean, giving it to me. I mean, shoot.
Who has it right now? Does Nick Aldis still have it?
Tyrus has the belt.
Tyrus, okay.
Actually, I take back what I just said.
Okay.
Since Billy Corgan has ran the NWA,
Mm-hmm.
he's actually done a really good job of bringing back prestige to the title.
Yep.
I mean, me and you talked about LA Knight. It was Eli Drake.
Yeah.
I mean, NWA was one of the promotions that
kind of launched him a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he was great, and what Billy Corgan did with it, if you watched it, you know they do this kind of retro presentation. Everything's like 80s, like when they start a match that they just put like in plain font the names of the wrestlers up on the screen, just plain font. It's like it's from 1986 or something. It's great.
Yeah, great nostalgia.
And they wrestle in a small studio, just like WCW Saturday Night did, or whatever. Or I can't remember. Maybe NWA did it too, but
NWA did.
Yeah. So it's like a small studio with a set to do interviews and promos, and it's great. I think it's great.
Yeah. So the NWA belt has been given a very hard time, and there has been some criticism of Billy Corgan, but I mean, look at what he's done. So Lightning won, and Billy Corgan purchased NWA. By 2019, NWA began to work on a single promotion, and that's when you had NWA Power.
Yep.
Okay. The whole thing with the Eli Drake.
Yeah.
The shoes of a champion.
Shoes of a champion. Did I say shoes of a champion? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, if you haven't seen the video,
God,
you need to get on YouTube.
He goes out there drunk off his ass. It was fucking great.
Yeah, he's a drunk as hell, and he's cutting a promo, and he's like, "You see these shoes? Shoes of a champion. You see this jacket? Shoes of a champion." And then he kept going with the promo, and the fans started reacting.
And then he goes, "Did I just say shoes of a champion? Yeah."
It's great.
That's one of the great. That's right up there with the Bryan Danielson, Paul London, American Dolphin promo.
So he botched this promo.
Yeah.
And it was still better than 90% of the promos you see out there.
If that doesn't see, that's why I was upset when I saw that he was in the dub. Okay? Because my understanding is that unless you're one of the top talents, they write word for word your promos in your interviews. Maybe that's not accurate, but
they do. But let me tell you something.
My point is, I don't think Eli Drake, LA Knight, needs that.
No, he doesn't.
You can give him a live mic and he will deliver.
He doesn't. Now, some fans want to criticize him and say that he's like The Rock and Stone Cold combined.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Shut the fuck okay, well, then we have to go. We have to spend hours talking about where Ric Flair got his gimmick from, where Hulk Hogan got his gimmick from.
We talked about Gorgeous George already.
Right.
That was pretty much every wrestler got their gimmick from Gorgeous George.
Right.
I mean, you wouldn't have The Miz. You wouldn't have MJF.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have any charismatic villain without Gorgeous George. I mean, it would be impossible. He established the foundation for all of them.
Right.
So
yeah, that's bullshit. That they're gonna discredit him because he's acts somewhat like The Rock in Austin.
And you know what? Here's the thing. If he's like The Rock in Austin, is that a bad thing?
Right.
I mean,
all right, great. You got 2 and 1.
Okay, so I'm about to get in the rumor mill, and this is a wrestling history podcast, so I don't want to jump too far into this. I heard a rumor that Vince McMahon likes LA Knight. Now, here's the thing that's ironic about that.
Okay.
When they originally put LA Knight onto the main roster after being in NXT and having a wonderful career in NXT,
right?
They put him in this group, Maximum Male Models, and he was called what the heck was it? Max Dupree or something like that. It was terrible.
Kind of like the way Austin was the ringmaster.
Terrible. It was kind of like how Austin was the ringmaster.
Right.
And it lit a fire under him.
Yeah.
So that when Triple H briefly gained control over the company and Vince McMahon had a scandal, which this is more evidence that Vince McMahon should just go away.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't care how it happens, he just needs to go.
Right.
Triple H was like, you know what? We're going to let you be LA Knight again, which is what his NXT gimmick was.
Right.
And the fans have caught fire with it. So now the rumor that I heard is that Vince McMahon actually, I think I heard this on the Jim Cornette podcast, that Vince McMahon actually likes LA Knight and he's just trying to figure out how to use him. And he wants to give him a push. And they got plans for him later this year to get a push.
I fucking hope so.
They're pushing Santos Escobar first.
I don't know who that is.
So, there's a lot of wrestlers you don't know in the WWE.
Yeah, there is.
So yeah.
But I know who LA Knight is.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully he will hold one of these belts that we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I could see him adding prestige to the world title. You could give him the intergalactic Death Star, Star Trek Enterprise, Klingon championship.
Yep.
He would do well with that. Undisputed.
Yep.
He would do well with any of this. My thing about it is, and this was a criticism about wrestling champions back in the day. A lot of people criticized in the 90s champions that were older. Okay.
Yeah.
And I get that because they felt like that guys like Hulk Hogan were holding down the younger stars.
Right.
Which back then, the younger stars were people like Bret
I remember
Hart.
hearing that all the time, holding down the young guys. I remember hearing that all the time. Kevin Nash was people were always accusing Nash of that.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that was good about that is it did establish, and especially with wrestling coming out as predetermined, it allowed older wrestlers that are still in good shape a chance to still participate. LA Knight, unfortunately, is an older wrestler. He's our age.
Yeah.
God, that feels hard to say.
Since I've had Peacock, I've watched a few episodes of Austin's Broken Skull Sessions, and I watched the one with Cody Rhodes. And he said something that Austin agreed with. He said wrestlers' primes are between the ages of 35 and 42. And Eli's right there. I mean, in the last half of it, but he's there.
Yeah, they got to use him fast.
This is his time. This is his time. Yeah.
He's got to.
I think he's been in this a long time now. I don't know how old he was when he first got started, but I'm assuming he's been in this a while.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we could probably end it right there, Lance. Is there any? Well, before we end it, is there anything you want to ask me? In my substantial opinion about
things? I don't know. I think you delivered today. I mean,
I started saying a lot towards the end.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Got to get better.
I can edit that out.
We gotta have Creature Comfort sponsors.
Yeah. Creature Comforts.
So I can practice not saying
We need a sponsorship. Creature Comforts Brewing Company. If you haven't had Creature Comforts, I highly recommend you pick some up, especially the Tropicalia IPA. It is 6.6% alcohol by volume. It's very delicious. It is my go-to beer. Yeah, it's great. Sponsor us, Creature Comforts in Athens, Georgia, please, which is just right up the road from us.
Money desperately. We want to quit.
Don't
jobs.
don't please, Creature Comforts, save us, please.
We want to. Hey, we will do this like 5 days a week.
Yes. Oh,
we will do this 5 days a week if we have to. If we would make money doing it.
Please save us from our bullshit jobs. Yeah, we don't you want to hear Ring Chronicles brought to you by Creature Comforts Brewing? Because I do. God, that would be badass. Okay.
We'll have to think about who could be our sponsor for next week.
Yeah. Well, I'm still going to push Creature Comforts because I really did. That's not bullshit. I'm just begging right now. That's all it is. We got a whopping 20 downloads on the podcast, so we obviously have some growing to do. And I think Creature Comforts could be a big part of our growth.
Yes.
So
we could grow exponentially with Creature Comforts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm very bullish on Creature Comforts, so I think they could help us out a lot. And they'll help you deliver speeches, do a podcast, playing video games, whatever it is.
Anything you want to do.
Right. Well, not anything. Not like driving auto car.
No, you don't need to drive auto car. No driving the auto car.
Don't drive the auto car. Just do something where you're sitting at home.
Yeah, responsibly.
Yeah, right. See, Creature Comforts, we're responsible enough. All right, so I guess that's going to be episode 2 of Ring Chronicles, and I think that was pretty smooth.
Yeah, better than the first one. We're getting better.
I enjoyed that one.
Yeah,
All
me
right.
too.
All right, so we're gonna, or at least Glenn will spend the next week coming up with the content for next week's episode.
And I have no fucking idea.
Even better. Maybe we'll wing it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll load up on some Creature Comforts and just shoot the shit.
We could do that. Just talk about wrestling history and title lineages.
Oh yeah.
Look, I have an idea. I have several ideas. If you have an idea, for an episode. I mean, we've got so few fans at the moment that like your voice is magnified times a billion.
Oh yeah, we're gonna hear you. We're gonna see you. So tell us what you want to hear, what you want to see, what you
Yeah. And we need money.
Yeah, we need money.
All right, peace, folks. Y'all have a good one.
All right, that'll do it until next week. Have a good one.
All right, bye.